I'm Christy. Today I want to talk to you about communicating with your loved one with special needs. Over the past few weeks, we've talked about a number of different aspects of communication. How much information to pass along, how to pass that information along, and different ways to communicate when verbal communication isn't possible. Through it all, we've seen how communication is important for our loved ones with special needs. Yes, it's a bit more complicated with them because of the extra hurdles we have to jump over many times. But in many ways, it's no more complicated than communicating with anyone else. Clear communication is always complicated and difficult, at least in many instances. We can all share numerous stories of how we've had communication blunders with others. Sometimes we don't explain ourselves clearly enough. Other times, the other person misunderstands or misinterprets what we're saying. And sometimes we simply speak over or around the other person and completely miss them. Many times, if both people are seeking to have open, clear communication, it's not difficult to step back, re-explain yourself, gain the clarity needed, and move on. If you're fortunate, there's even some laughter at that miscommunication. Other times, though, both parties, or at least one party, isn't as open to clarifying misunderstandings. In these situations, hurt feelings often occur. Many times, things are said that can't be taken back, even though they weren't truly meant or were spoken in the heat of the moment. Things can get ugly pretty quickly. When your loved one has special needs, though, things can quickly become even more complicated. Not only do you have the normal issues to work through, if your loved one has any level of mental impairment, you run the risk of them simply not being able to understand what you're trying to say to them. Sometimes it doesn't matter how many different ways you try to say it, how many times you try to explain it differently or word it differently or show them or whatever you think of. They simply can't comprehend what you're trying to get across to them. It's not uncommon in these kinds of situations for frustrations to rise quickly. And often, once those frustrations arise, everything else goes downhill from there rather quickly. Now add in the fact that your loved one has trouble communicating their thoughts back to you. And things just got exponentially more complicated. Here, even though it's more likely that frustrations rise quickly, and once that frustration rises, it's often more difficult to communicate clearly. Suddenly, you're on a downward spiral with no signs of stopping. So how can we avoid some of these miscommunications and the frustrations that typically come with them? It's a great question. Now, I know that we can't get rid of all misunderstandings and miscommunication, but I think that there are some steps we can take to help our loved ones with special needs communicate more easily with us and us with them. First of all, stay calm. Okay, I know that's a whole lot easier said than done in the heat of the moment, but it really can make a huge difference in whether or not the point is communicated clearly or not. Also, seek to clarify things that you don't understand. Ask questions to clarify. If you still don't understand, ask more questions. Listen to understand. Don't just listen or hear to react or to respond. Stay calm. Yeah, I know, I already said it, but it's that important. Take a deep breath. Count to 10, or maybe 100 if you need to. I think you get the idea. In the end, it all comes down to this. Communication is one human being trying to get their thoughts across to another human being. Sometimes it's easy. Other times, it's nearly impossible. But with patience and effort, clear communication usually wins out. The basic premise is no different when you're dealing with special needs. It's still communication between two human beings. Okay, one of those human beings probably has a harder time verbally or through other means of making a point. But patience, understanding, asking questions, and all the other suggestions you hear about for good communication still play a critical role in getting that clear communication to come across. Once again, special needs complicate the process, but doesn't change it fundamentally. Your loved one is still a human being who wants others to understand his or her thoughts, wants, and needs. So my question for you this week is this. Have you found any tricks that make communication with your loved one easier? I'd love to hear about them. You can leave me a comment below, or you can leave me a comment over on the blog. That's at www.havenofhopeforme.com. This originally posted in July of 2021. I'm grateful for improved communication with AJ, at least on most days, so that I can continue to say that life is good and there is never a dull moment.